come true. It's, you know, as a kid, you know, always dreamed about, you know, being a Masters champion.
It's okay.
It's hard to talk.
You've earned this right.
But, you know, it's just incredible, obviously, as you can tell. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. I think the overwhelming message when I talk to your team, it's that you care so much and you work so hard. It's just that not a lot of us get to see it. Could you give us just a peek behind the curtain as to why all of this emotion is there? Because I know it's because of how hard you work.
I've never had this much trouble gathering myself.
It's okay.
On the golf course, I'm pretty good at it. Out here, I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I put in a lot of hard work. I've got a great team who... Jesus. Who gives it? I can't even talk.
You know, but Bubba Watson has showed us that tears are absolutely allowed here at Augusta National. Dustin, take this one in. Congratulations.
Yeah, there we are. Dustin Johnson, Masters champion. Gary Murphy is with us to reflect on the 2020 Masters. Well, with Dustin there, Gary, still waters run deep. I think we've followed him for well over a decade now. He never struck me as that type of an emotional character. Obviously, he's a human being. He's going to feel human emotions. But that was a brand new side to Dustin that we've never even come close to seeing before.
It was, Joe. Probably the kind of side that you were hoping was in there deep down. And I guess just the fact it was the Masters. He's a Southern Carolina boy, just the next state. And you ask these questions or hear these stories the whole time about putt to win, you know, the Open or whatever it might be. And I just think it just all came on top from then. And it was wonderful to see. But I think you got to give him a lot of credit because that emotion was inside him when he was out trying to win the thing. And he didn't let any of that affect him. So it was great to see. And, you know, at the tail end of a phenomenal performance.
And it was phenomenal, wasn't it? He's had his fair share of mishaps. He's had his fair share of near misses. He has been 54-hole leader on 4 previous occasions and was 0 for 4. Lots of people would have told you in advance of this tournament, I probably was one of them, that there was now a big mistrust over DJ under pressure at majors. And he came out, world number 1, was wire to wire. So you said phenomenal performance. It was that.
It was. I was astonished really at the USPGA with a lot of the commentary saying that they were, you know, kind of waiting for DJ to mess up. You know, I don't think he gets enough credit. If you know, there's a lot of hype around Rory and deservedly so, and Brooks Koepka and deservedly so. But you know, he's won way more than those tournament-wise on the PGA Tour. And I think he, you know, it's as you can see by him crying like a 3-year-old afterwards. It's not easy to win these things. He has had his chances. That doesn't mean he can get over the line. But like I said in my column last week, I really fancied him big time to win. And I think he might get that Mickelson bounce, you know, because Mickelson tried for so many years to try to get across the major line. And then they came, you know, pretty thick and fast. And I think you might see the same from Johnson. He's only 36. He's got at least, you would have to think, another 4 years, you know, at the top end of that. Will that translate into a major a year, which in reality is a phenomenal return? I think it possibly might. He just seems, you know, he got off to a shaky start. There's no, and that was always going to happen because you can't be flawless for 4 days in a major championship. But the bunker shot on 2, you know, after sticking it in the ground. His tee shot on 6, and that was a huge swing there. Really, he made the 2, and him made bogey. But he then played a really mature back 9, and just did everything he had to do. He was just bulletproof the whole way, and I was delighted to see it really because I think he's an incredible talent, and more often than not, we never really see incredible talents maximize their potential, and I think that was him maximising his potential on Sunday.
He was talented from day one. and has won on tour basically every year he's ever been on tour. But there were deficiencies in his game or in his approach to the game. For instance, when he really kicked on a notch, maybe 4 or 5 years ago in advance of winning the US Open, I always remember the press conference where he was asked about the massive improvement in his wedge play. You know, what have you done, Dustin? What's the magic sauce here? And he said, well, I started practicing them. And I thought, okay, that doesn't bode brilliantly. And equally, his dedication to the sport was questionable. You know, he seemed to enjoy himself, have a good time. Discipline wasn't brilliant. You know, there were a couple of off the course, maybe misdemeanors. All of this stuff was floating around there. And then on course, sometimes his strategy. You look at the way when he had a mud ball on 13 on Sunday, the discipline to not take that on and to lay up and not give anybody a peek. All of these little parts of the puzzle have slowly but surely come together, allied to the talent that was always there. And now we've got someone who looks very complete.
He does look very complete. I think that the big difference with Dustin Johnson was always going to be the little difference. You know, he had big issues off the course. He met his current fiance. I wouldn't say current, that's a bit harsh to say, but he met his fiance Paulina in 2013, and I personally believe the influence of her father Wayne Gretzky, who, for people that don't know, was, you know, the Tiger Woods of ice hockey in his time. And so he's got greatness there to bounce off and try learn from. And the big thing with all these great sports people, no matter what discipline that they're in, you know, they have to outwork everybody else. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. And I think that's something that's probably lost with some of our up-and-coming players, that, you know, how hard are these guys working? How much do they really want it? Johnson realised, probably through messing around, he was a little bit of a party animal. But then you got to try understand that thing too. He's, as you said earlier, he's a human being. He's a young kid. Didn't really come from a huge amount, and all of a sudden he's a multimillionaire and probably thought life was easy and I can get away with things a little bit. And maybe then the Gretzky influence of, listen, kid, you got a chance to be the greatest here, and it's not going to come easy. You're going to have to transform your life off the course to benefit your life on the course. And I think he's obviously listened, identified a weakness in his game, and made it probably one of the better parts of his game. Driving the ball, Joe, has always been easy for him. It's something he doesn't really have to think about. It's just built into his game. And with modern technology, you know, it's difficult for him to drive the ball poorly. But the big difference was, could he turn that advantage with his driver into an advantage with his wedge play? And he undoubtedly has.
He sure has. So not to overstate things on Rory McIlroy's part, because he would have had to shoot a very impressive 66 on the first day to tie Johnson.
Yeah.
So that was still, you know, it's still an ask, but a 66 on the first day allied to his 66, 67 and 69 on the Sunday would have tied him with DJ. So it's a fifth place finish from McIlroy. Again, on the CV, it looks like real, you know, brilliant consistency, and he'll turn around in a few years' time and justify it and say, look at all these, you know, top 5 finishes. But the reality, once again, you would have to say, Gary, is that it's a backdoor top 5. He was never really in contention, once again, from far too early in a major tournament. What's going on here?
He's obviously got an issue on first rounders. There's no denying that. I think he's, 20-odd over par for his first rounders, and, you know, mild 60-odd under par for the rest of his performances in the majors in recent years. I was surprised at him with the first round. I thought poor Rush should have been, which it was really a huge learning curve for him. But he went out. I don't know this for a fact because I haven't spoken to him, but I personally think he just went out and tried to be perfect on Thursday and tried to do the right things and make the right swings rather than just trying to be Rory. And does that deep down come down to a little bit of lack of trust? Maybe it possibly might. And that's only because his confidence is a bit lower than a Brooks Koepka in a major, or a Dustin Johnson now, or a Bryson DeChambeau. Their performances were down to bad play, I would say, rather than lack of trust. Where Rory just realised, I think, after day one, I have to freewheel it. And you know, it's easy to say, well, why don't you just freewheel it next April on Thursday morning? If it was that easy to do, he would just go and do it. But I don't think he's a massive amount of soul searching to do. It's been a funny year for him. The COVID thing hasn't suited him. You know, hopefully this vaccine can come and we'll get back to normal. Yesterday would be wonderful, but I still think he's in a really good place, and he's a bit of a chaser now as well, in the sense that, you know, a lot of the spotlight is not massively on him. He's going to have probably the best winter of his life because he's got a new baby, and he's going to have some time off and a good time to reflect on stuff. He's never that far away, McIlroy. I do agree with you that, you know, that it's now 6 years and he hasn't won a major, which is a lot for him. But he's still at the top of the game. He just has to find that little, I don't know, whether maybe his relationship with his caddy, not that he's doing anything massively wrong, maybe freshen up something in that regard. Maybe listen, if he did get a new caddy, maybe listen to what other people have to say.
But by all accounts, he's not somebody who necessarily wants to be told what to do by his caddy or anyone else around him.
No, he doesn't. And I think JP got a rough end of the stick really for many years, saying that it was all his fault.
His former caddy.
His former caddy, yeah. I don't understand the relationship or know the relationship personally, but from what I can see just from watching in and when I've been walking around with them, Harry probably needs to be a lot stronger. Now, does he listen? Is he strong? If he's too strong, does it affect Rory? He's trying to find that balance. But I think certainly it is, you know, they've had a really good run together. There's no denying that. You know, does making money mean anything to McIlroy? No. Top five is nothing. Second is last. That's probably the pressure that he's under too, which is not an easy space to be in. But maybe if he freshened up, and I don't think it's a case of getting, you know, Stevie Williams or someone like that, because I don't think they would get on. But maybe a job share could be something to look at, because Harry has done really well for him. But we're talking about tiny margins here. We're talking about potentially getting a Grand Slam. So I don't know. Maybe a job share. Some of the caddies do that. Players do that, and it has worked well for them. Because it doesn't matter how successful they are. Every relationship gets stale on tour. And I think in this COVID environment as well, where they're in a bubble and they're, you know, sharing a house every week, a lot of the players and caddies are doing that, just trying to stay safe. And that makes it a little bit different, more difficult on the course too, because you're just spending 24 hours a day together.
Yeah.
Weekend. Yeah, so maybe if we looked at something like that, that might be something just to get the edge. Because we know when Rory's got his A game, it's the best in the world.
Yeah, for sure. And we saw that over some of the weekend. I'm just trying to see when he parted way with JP Fitzgerald. What is it, 3 years ago now? 4?
I think 20. When did Spieth win? Nathan probably has it tattooed on.
17, I think. Wasn't it? 17, Spieth won the British Open.
17, that's, yeah. So
but you're like, look, maybe... For sure, you know a trillion times more about this than I do, but some of the trends we're seeing in McIlroy's game predate any caddy change, you know, and 3 years isn't that long a relationship with a caddy. Like, there's no logic here, right? Because I'm going to pose the argument that he currently has a bit of an issue with pressure to you and see what you think. Now, I know you're going to tell me he's won majors before and he's dealt with pressure so many times before. Maybe he's in a different headspace then. Maybe he's, you know, as opposed to, you know, top of the hill, he's shooting up the hill and there's less expectation. Who knows what changes in psychology, okay? But, so we're talking, like, he's never got to the 12th hole at Augusta on a Sunday in with a chance of winning. He never put himself in that position in all these 12 appearances in a course that suits him. So there's something psychological there, you would argue, because we can get into the nuts and bolts of his game on a different year by year, and there's always something working well or working not so well. But just broad terms, 12 appearances at a course that suits him, and he's never gone to the 12th tee on a Sunday in the competition. You think of Port Rush. When?
In 2011 he did, yeah.
No, because he blew up on 10.
Yeah, but I mean, he's still on the golf tour.
He was not. Did he? We'll have a look at footage of him in 2011 and walking to the 12th, and you tell me by his body language, was he still in it? He was not in it. It was gone. He was on his way to an 80. So okay, and even I'll allow 2011 if we'll allow that for argument's sake. But like you mentioned Portrush. I'll just put this point to you though. You mentioned Portrush. Like that's an unbelievable moment when you think about it for a player of his stature to have happened. 2 years ago, final grouping with Reid, and on the Sunday, front nine, he's gone. So it's not like it's just a first round thing. We're talking about areas where pressure has come on. And so if you look back at his first round, when the pressure was on him, he gets to the 13th tee and he's 1 over for the tournament. And he knows he needs a good score in that first day. 13th hole, par 5. For him, this is meat and drink. And he hooks it into the trees. Like, when pressure was on to really do something, that was the response. And then on 14, into the trees again. And then on 16, you know, splash into the water. As he said himself, Rory, that's so bad. So, like, you know, what is that?
But this is where the caddy comes into it.
I don't think you can't put that on the caddy. Surely you can't. What would you say to Rory on the 13th tee that would stop him hooking the ball into trees?
Well, you could potentially do many things. You can give him a different message. You can give him a different golf club. If you look back to Portrush last year on the Saturday with Shane Lowry and his caddy Bo, you think how much Bo jockeyed Shane to be fully committed to understand the decision and to be able to execute. Yeah. I mean, the role of the caddy is enormous. It can't be, you know, everyone's talking about this team now and the players and are stronger and faster and they've got, you know, strength and conditioning coaches and diet. They've got everything. And that's all required and has to be performed and executed in the modern game because it's a different sport now with the equipment and technology than what it was. But once you cross that white line, there's only 2 people out there are going to win the golf tournament. It's obviously the guy executing the shots, but the message that's been told to the player is what helps him to execute the shots. Now, is Rory walking around just trying to be himself? And it's human nature. He's going to fight the indecision and doubt for his 4.5 hours or whatever on a golf course, because that's just the way the sport is. Yeah. So the message, what's been said to him is to try help him with that. Is that message coming across? Is it been told? I'm not really that sure that it is. And that's why I think if I was in his stable, you know, just try it. I mean, there's no harm. Now, I know you got to try it at Augusta, but there's no harm in trying it for, you know, a different voice on the bag and see what happens. He's got nothing to lose. Listen, Rory will turn up in April at the Masters and play half decent and still run top 10. That's just a given. Yeah.
And do you buy the pressure point? Because I hear everything you're saying about the caddy, but I still think that's incredibly harsh on Harry Diamond when you look at the first on Portrush, you look at the 13th in that first round. I just can't see how a caddy is responsible for that. What about the pressure point? Because I don't even. It's just a theory. Like there are lots of obviously inconsistencies when you look at his career that he can't handle pressure.
You can't say that. I mean, everyone messes up in golf tournaments, Joe. It's just, I mean, what's he going to play? 400 tournaments in his career. Yeah. You know, he's going to mess up. He's going to choke. He's going to 3-putt. He's going to duff in the water. He's going to do all those things because that's just the nature of the game. Yeah. The one I would agree with you massively, the Patrick Reed loss was huge because here's a guy that they went head to head at the Ryder Cup. There was a lot of history there. Patrick Reed's a very dislikable guy. He's an easy guy to get up. You know, it's like you're playing a hurling match and you're marking this guy that you don't like. It's just easy to leather yourself into him because that's what you want to do. Yeah. That was more disappointing, but that's, in my opinion, where the caddy comes in. Listen, first tee, we're going to get stuck into this guy. Don't care how we do it, we're just going to do it. It's got to be a firm, aggressive message to go, this guy is just not going to beat us today. It's not about you got 140 front and the pin is on 15 and there's a bit of, it's not about that. You're trying to get into your player's head. You're trying to get him to get angry, to get aggressive, to get mean, to get selfish, to get all those things, just to get what you get out of him. And that's why, you know, it's not about the caddy on the first tee. It's probably about the caddy in the warm-up. Is he absolutely shitting himself warming up on the first round of Portrush? What's been said to him? You know, has nothing been said to him? and he's walking to the first tee petrified, which is only human nature, like a zombie, and he's not being reassured. So,
although,
and I'm not...
Yeah, interestingly, he said himself that he didn't prepare himself psychologically for the first tee put rush. You know, that is his responsibility if he's going to be honest with himself. I don't think you can put that on a caddy. And look, I kind of withdraw the pressure thing because it just can't be the case given what he's achieved in his career. But if we look, he's 32 now, going on 32. Yeah. So that gives him, you know, his length advantage, everything else. You've got to think 10 really good chances, really exceptional chances, and maybe 1 or 2 beyond there to sneak in. Like, for all we're kind of down on him at the moment, like the fact that he regathered himself so brilliantly, 66, 67, 69, you know, if things were really bad, he would have just gone to a dark place there and probably missed the cut, and he didn't do that to his credit. So over the 10 years, is he a better than evens chance of winning a green jacket, or can this go the way of Norman and strange things happen?
No, I think he's similar to Norman in a sense that they were both, you know, swashbuckling players. You know, and I think at times Norman was probably a better putter, but he's just frustrating to watch because he, you know, I know he divides opinion massively on this island. I'm a huge fan of Rory's because, for the number one reason, I meet him tomorrow, and he's pretty much the same kid that I met when he first came out on tour, give or take a couple of $100 million. You know, so he's still a great guy. He's an amazing talent to play golf. It's just he's at the very top end of his sport, and the margins are so fine. And I'm not banging down giving Harry Diamond a tough time. It's a ruthless sport. Rory is an opportunity for greatness. Sometimes you might have to make tough decisions. Dustin Johnson had to make a lot tougher decisions about his life and his career in order to put that green jacket on Sunday night than Rory would have to make to put a green jacket on, I think. You know, Dustin had a huge amount of problems off the course, was susceptible to, you know, being a bit of a party animal, and had to reappraise his life, and he's done that, you know, remarkably. So I don't think Rory has to do a huge amount to get back to world number one, to get back to winning another easily 3 or 4 majors. I mean, it's inconceivable to think that he's not going to win 8 or 9 majors in his career.
Oh, you still think 8, 9? Yeah, right. Okay.
Without a doubt. I mean, it's.
You're talking double what he's done now.
Pardon?
He's going to double what he's done in the last 12 years. Over the next 10, no doubts.
No doubt about it.
Okay. Well, sure.
Have you seen him play live a lot, Joe?
Yeah. I mean, sorry, I don't. Ryder Cups and Irish Opens and British Opens. Like, I was there in 14 in Hoylake, you know. So there is all the cliches. There is a different sound when he hits it. He has a different level. If he's on the driving range, you get yourself to the driving range. You know, there's no issue with his game.
No. There's a couple of things, because no one is perfect. But I just think, you know, you'd love to get him on the first tee and just get the whip out and just slap him across the arse and go, you know, let's get a little meaner today and see, or this week, and see where it takes us.
Well, on that note, Barry Murphy, brilliant stuff. Thanks so much. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Joe.
Off the ball on News Talk. Screen time.
I wouldn't normally dare mention Christmas movies in November, but when you've got Forrest Whitaker on the show, what can I do? This week on Screen Time, I talked to the cast of the new Netflix Christmas movie, Jingle Jangle.